Thanks for joining us. We are recording and we are happy to have our June call here featuring Donna Lach and her, what I like to think of as her Heliophysics Big Year of all kinds of types of rare types of aurora and sightings throughout the year. Um, Laura, do you have any other comments to start with?
I'm always thrilled to have Donna talk because not only does she provide a very, very experienced perspective, but she's also worked a lot with scientists. And I'm looking forward to hearing about her work with the groups that she's been doing cool stuff with.
All right.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Go ahead,
Let's see if I
Donna.
can share. Thank you. I'll see if I can share my screen here. No, is that the right screen I'm sharing? Can you see it full screen?
Yes, it looks great.
It looks great.
Okay.
Yes.
All
I love
right.
your font choices already.
Well, yeah, yeah, I'm crazy about font. I go to DeFont all the time and download new stuff. Um, I when I checked the Heliophysics Big Year, I realized that it started in 2023. So I have, instead of just 2024 observations, I have included some from 2023 as well. And from working on our field guide last year, I was really focused on the different auroral features. So that was the exciting part for me, seeing different auroral features and identifying them for the first time. So the first observation that I was excited about was on November 12th, 2023, and I went out really early, shortly after 7 p.m. Someone in the Arctics group had told me that that is a good time to see the proton aurora, the isolated proton aurora, and there was an amazing show of proton aurora just north of me. And there was some undulation shortly after. This is at 7:53. The other was 7:20. And you can see that diffuse um, shelf is getting thicker there. I always lighten up my pictures a lot because I want to see the features in them. So um, some of my pictures might look very light. I did get a time lapse that shows the blobs and the undulations, and it also shows dunes. Dunes I find are very hard to capture, but you can see the dunes moving slowly eastward here as the undulations were moving westward. And that was very exciting to capture that. Um, the next one was on December 1st. Now I've really pushed the processing on this picture to try and see the dunes,
Are
and
you all recording
it
this?
was
Yes, good. Yeah, I'm just double checking your recording. This is really cool.
We
Keep
are
going.
recording, and I'm actually going to ask, I'm getting some bandwidth notifications. If everybody could
oh
please turn their cameras off to help preserve bandwidth, that would be fantastic.
We can keep Donna, hopefully.
yes
But
I can.
and Donna, if you want to say anything about whether, that last event, like whether it was a small storm or if you recall anything more about the types of events, or if you're going to come back to that, that's also great.
Yeah.
Or we can just,
No, I
yeah.
it It um it was probably, if we measure by KP, that's usually how I measure it, just to give my perspective as the size of the oval because I'm in the suburban area. And that was all night aurora. I think I went to bed around 3 a.m. as I gave up at that point, but there was another good show after midnight, and but it didn't extend farther past me. Does that give you an idea of the size of the show? Is that what you mean?
Yes, yes, yes. And you have the dates and times, so it's all good. Thank you.
Okay. So then on December 1st, it was I was driving to escape the clouds, and I had gone about 2 hours north of here, and it was just getting dark. And I could see the aurora streaming above me. So I continued until it got dark enough to see the aurora for pictures, and it was incredible colors. There were dunes to the west, and I really pushed the processing on this picture to try and see the dunes. It didn't show up well in the time lapse pictures or in my other camera, but they were there, and that diffuse uh, shelf stayed there as it expanded a bit, but it didn't expand too much farther south of me. I think when it started undulating, I think it was just south of me, maybe over 50, um, the the southern border between us and North Dakota. So this is an idea of the colors that I saw. So this was 744. And I'd never posted too many of these pictures because the colors just looked weird to me. It didn't look attractive to me because it was such a weird combination with the purple and the pink and the corals and the greens, the yellow greens. But they are fascinating I look at these pictures over and over again. And I believe it was all night aurora, but I only stayed up until about 1 a.m. And so it would have been almost about a KP4 size of oval, and it was active all night. Now this was December 18th. There wasn't much activity. I'd gone to bed. I woke up shortly after midnight, and I saw the data that there had to be some wild aurora out there. So I grabbed my gear and went out a couple miles north of town and saw this amazing sight of this bright aurora. And I was trying different settings. I believe I've overexposed these photos. That's why they look so white. I don't know for sure, but I believe that's green, that white stuff in there. I think that's green aurora. I caught a picture about 2 minutes off from this satellite, and I can see the features. So when when I find my location, um, I um, I put a dot on the satellite map here, and I can see the big loop. The big omega band to the west is very clear in my picture, and the other omega bands to the east are less defined, but it's because I'm looking at an angle at them. And if you can see in the satellite view, the omega band is quite decayed to the east. Now, I never understood how the omega bands decay, but gives me a really good perspective as to the westward omega bands are still evolving, and the ones to the east are more decayed. But that was such bright aurora. The satellite view, it just shows an amazing view of what was happening. So the Gannon storm. Well, the I was driving for the first 2 hours as it got dark. I was driving, so all of the discrete aurora that people saw between 10 and midnight or 1 o'clock, I had picked up a friend at the airport, and we were driving to a location that we didn't know where it was. We were trying to find a location on a map, and we got lost. So we eventually showed up. I think it was about 12:30, 1 o'clock. And then the view that we saw was these pinks and purples, all of these pastel colors. The left and the right photo were facing straight south. The other one with the purplish to the right, it was facing west towards Alberta, and that corona straight up. I believe that was about 2:30 in the morning. And so we saw some amazing bright pastel colors. This is probably my favorite picture from that night, and this is facing south as well. And the green, it was so bright, and I'm always struggling with my settings, so it I had to manipulate this to find the green color in there. So then the next
Donna?
one was on August 1st, the night of, pardon me?
Oh, I'm sorry. When you say that you edited that last picture, which is totally fine, could I just ask you what you mean is that you actually enhanced the green more relative to the other colors, right?
Um, I enhanced it by the way of contrast. I normally don't saturate any of my photos, but when you do increase the contrast, you are increasing the saturation. Um, since I don't see any colors with the naked eye, I'm always trying to figure out what it would realistically look like. And I just pulled this picture to put on here because I pushed a lot of contrast in there for printing the image. In the original raw image, those colors would be a lot lighter and it would be very bright. Does that make
Yeah, yeah,
sense?
great. That's thanks. I just wanted to sort of bring out that point since, talking about more of the science side, the raw images are usually the preferred images. But of course the settings do vary and knowing the settings and I know you know all of those things but I was also impressed that you don't see the colors strongly with your naked eye. And then you're also able to capture such beautiful images. Thank you.
Yeah, I wish I could see the colors with the naked eye, but I'm always guessing and when I go into Lightroom, I'm guessing and I'm trying to make it look realistic, but then it's just a guess for me. So the next exciting thing I saw, and Justin also got some really good footage of this event, was the night of July 31st, August 1st. I was out at the lake and we had seen substorm onset and it was pushing just south of me. And I was looking at the west edge and it had a little bit of color to it. So I set up my time-lapse camera because I said to the women that were with me, oh, I think we might get a Steve here. And the Steve was has found data saying that it was a SAR-ARC and a Steve. And the you can see to the east, it's faded. It doesn't. Okay,
Yes.
so it was very brief, and the folks out west got a better view than me again, including Justin. But it was um, it was cool to actually see a proper Steve because I haven't seen it really well recently. Then the next event that I found fascinating was August 3rd. and we had this onset about just after midnight, and we had a normal substorm process. It was pulsating, or it got to the pulsating stage, and the recovery was almost done. And then I saw this in the sky, and I took a number of pictures east and west. I took a panorama. I took several pictures of this site. So you can see that uh, there is some bright aurora to the north, and there's this band of diffuse aurora forming, and the pulsating aurora. I think this is still pulsating aurora to the south. You can see some field alignment, I believe, in here. And this is just observational. I'm not a scientist, so I I may use things that I'm not sure of, and use words that I'm not sure of, but it looks like field alignment. And I had said, when I showed this to Liz, I said, this looks like an eye to me, that bright color to the north, or looks like the eye, and that diffuse band looks like the eyelash, the eyelid, and then the eyelash is those strange features that are up to the top left. Anyway, this happened at 1:10, so that was about an hour after breakup. And then this is what happened at 1:20. There was another burst of color, and it briefly expanded, but then it was pulsating again by 1:38. Um, I continued watching this for a while after, and I moved to a different location. And of course, it was past magnetic midnight, so I saw some omega bands, and they weren't terribly interesting. There was much further north, so then I quit my observation about an hour later.
If I recall,
So
you
then,
have some time lapse on that one too, or you don't have to show it, but you have something that showed that those
yeah,
eyelashes kind of moving, or
I don't remember how they moved. I don't have the video queued up here. But it was yeah, it was really, really weird. It was really weird. There's lots of questions I had after that. And I know you had asked me, Liz, if I had seen any signs of that second Van Allen belt. And I said, well, this is something weird. I don't know what this is. Could this be it? But it was just something weird altogether. One thing that I did notice last year was a lot of times there was that bright, discrete aurora to the north when it looked like we were in a recovery um, phase, where, or just before breakup, but there was bright, discrete aurora to the north. I don't always see that, and last year is the first year that I really noticed that. Anyway, moving on to the day that, or the night that I saw the great aurora, and believe I identified that's what it was for the first time. I probably had seen it before, but this was absolutely incredible. So we had onset just after 1 a.m. So this is just as it's expanding. I was at the lake again, and I'm not sure the orientation of this shoreline, but I believe this is facing south. And I found a satellite photo taken 2 minutes after that image of the expansion. And you can see Detroit down at the bottom left. And I am, about middle and to the left of the satellite photo. And that it was so extremely bright. That was about 2 minutes after it had expanded in my photo. My time was probably very close. It may have been a minute off. I know I tried to keep my camera on time, but I think it was pretty close. I was using Jeremy's Aurora Unit 5. I just got it from Justin the week before, and I set it up at our farm, and then I went a half hour west to the lake. I'm sorry, east to the lake, and it caught the whole storm from dusk until dawn. And the interesting keogram around the edge. You can see this on Jeremy's YouTube Capture North channel, but you can see on the top of the keogram the red when the green had pulled away. So the one thing I noticed that the when it expanded, then the green started moving south and it revealed that red that was directly above me. And I had expected green to expand north, but it was moving south. And then there was this deep, bright red, plus the that diffuse red that was not in the corona. Yeah, and it this is what one of my cameras caught. And as you can see that the top is north, the bottom is south. So the green was moving south. It was above me and then it started moving south, showing that great red aurora. And as I told you, I don't see the color with my eyes, and the aurora was not as bright at this point, and I'm trying to figure out why it's not as bright. And when I look through my camera, I realize, well, that's red because to me, red is a dark color. And I saw that the water was red and the sand was red. Everything was had a red tint to it. It was really, really eerie. It was just glowing. And you can see the division right above the tree between the green that went to the south and the red that was to the north. So this is at 124, but then that red started moving south. So I've got, oh, my times, I needed to adjust that. So the one picture on the left is at 126, the one on the right is 127. So that red corona moved south of me, and that diffuse red is Liz, is the diffuse red, is that the Great Red Aurora, or is it both that deep red in the top of the curtain?
Well,
And
I think the Great Red Aurora is typically like a really blood red. And so kind of more the sort of dark red that I think you were noticing even by eye. Um,
okay.
but we have um an expert on great at least one expert on Great Red Aurora on this call. I don't know if Janet, if you have any thoughts on this. There's also a type of red aurora where it's kind of like normal aurora, so the red is on top of the green like it normally is, but the proportions are different than they normally are. So the red is much stronger than the green. So yeah, that's the other reason that maybe some of this, I'm not sure, because you definitely also have green below, but it's really a great observation. Uh, Janet, do you have any questions or do you want to jump in?
Yeah, the difference really, and Pat probably knows a lot about this too, is that a type A red aurora, which is maybe what this is, and maybe it's a great red aurora. The difference between the two is a type A, the intensity of the red and the green are the red is stronger than the green in a type A, but you'll have both colors. In a great red aurora, you'll also have both colors. However, most of the emission comes from the heating of the thermal electrons, slamming into the oxygen, and the red auroras can be, hundreds of kilorellies, and you can't mistake it. So the question is, what is the intensity of that? And so that's sort of I mean, 75% of the red line or even more can be due to the heating of the thermal electrons and not to the particles precipitating. Whereas, in a typical type A red aurora, it's mostly the precipitation that is producing the red line. So it's really interesting. And the question is, can you see it with your naked eye? And how bright is it? And when you have a really big great red aurora, you can read by the light of the great red aurora. And people think there's forest fires on the horizon, and they send out fire trucks looking for the fires. And it's just amazing when you get to what you would call a great red aurora.
This
Okay, so this may not be Great Red Aurora then?
It might be a type A,
Well,
and then what do you call it? Because I don't know if people have made that distinction. Because a great red aurora would be a type A red aurora. It's just that it's so much brighter than a typical type A aurora, because of the heating of the electron gas that produces
okay.
most of it.
Yeah, I think Janet, we can also share with you the Aurora camera, the fisheye lens, because the other thing about the fisheye lens time lapse is that it should be pretty much set to be taking shots every, regularly, basically, so you can maybe more easily see the relative brightness. But there also could be other images or looking at other shots or, other folks' recollections of how strong it was on this night could be interesting too.
Can
Um,
I just ask for a definition of type A?
Yeah, Janet just kind of said that. I think it's, and I was also trying to say that it's where the red is stronger than the green. Like the ratio of red to green is higher.
Thank you.
And, I don't think that we totally know that it's like the rarest types, and so there could also still be some things to sort out as far as I was going to say kind of more of a continuum between some of those types. I don't know if Janet agrees with that, but um, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
this
great.
picture, I think I colored it a little bit blue, but so is the diffuse aurora that I see above it, above this discrete corona type of red, is that different red aurora?
Do you have a cursor that we can see that maybe you can point to it or yes.
Is my
Okay.
cursor, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there is very diffuse red aurora above it. And
Mm,
then there's this discrete stuff happening here that where that deep red is. So it's different to me.
yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it also gets hard to sort out. Let's check. That could be something to compare to like this time in the Aurorae as well, because with the fisheye looking up, you might get a better sense of how they differ spatially. Um, yeah.
oh, and this I was having trouble with my lenses. They were getting fogged up. And you can see that my lens was starting to fog here when I took this panorama, but I was still able to get it. It was difficult for me to keep wiping both lenses, and uh, my other camera that was taking the time lapse pictures, it got totally fogged up while this happened, and I was busy with the one camera, so it was unfortunate. But the Aurora Eye does not get fogged up. It has an amazing perspective of the whole storm. So it is a great if you're looking for a better view of it, that'd be a great place. And this was at 128 facing southwest. It had moved south. So anyway, and then there was another expansion. Looks like I colored this one a little bit blue, and the green was above me again, but then there was a hole above that tree that I could see that the red was still up above there. But anyway, it was an amazing night. I watched from dawn until dusk, and it was all sky aurora all night. So it was a big storm. And the next thing that I was very excited to see was on September 29th. I was with a friend about 7 hours north of here, and we had seen a substorm onset, and we're watching through the recovery phase. And it was almost at the end of recovery phase, and there was this thick band of um, dense green aurora that was just south of us. I put my camera up that direction. I took a few pictures and took a couple of pictures to the east. And I thought, well, this is kind of boring because it's just a big slime green scene. And so I turned around and I took pictures to the north again. And then when I was looking at the pictures the week later, I saw these little shapes right in the center of this picture. And I thought those are typical Black Aurora shapes from the literature. I was so excited because Bob King had asked me the previous year if I could tell him about any observations I had about Black Aurora. And I said, I don't know what it looks like. I'm still trying to figure that out. And I was so excited to actually finally be able to identify it from these little teardrop shapes. And when we had done the field guide, one of the scientists has given us some pictures of Black Aurora with the strips in it. And you see these, black strips in your green aurora sometimes, but you can't tell if it's Black Aurora or not. But when I saw these little teardrop shapes, I was pretty sure that this was Black Aurora. So I got about 20 pictures. And now that I've gone back to look at some of my pictures and seen some more since then, I believe when that thick, dense green band forms again through the middle of the night, and we sometimes call it a river. It forms this river of thick, dense green with some black strips in it, and then shortly after is another onset or another burst of activity. Does that make sense scientifically?
Yeah, it could. Even know if it's more commonly, if we know exactly when the Black Aurora shows up. So you could be onto something there, Donna, for sure. I mean, we know roughly when it shows up, but
Okay,
not
well,
how to predict it. And maybe you do.
all I know is what I observe. So I understand such a small amount of the science, enough that I can make guesses, but I never know for sure. But anyway, I have observed this thick green river with these black strips in it, and shortly after, there's a burst of activity. So it's not the onset that you see with the beads and curls. It's a different type of onset and burst of activity. This thick, dense green band will split open, and anyway, very interesting. And this was right at the end of that slimy green.
One thing
And
that's
this is,
really obvious to me is, these are all when you're looking basically straight up the field line, and that way, if you've got an empty flux tube, it's more obvious because it's not being assimilated with neighboring flux tubes that are slightly in a different position. So, I think you can see those empty flux tubes much better with this aspect ratio.
okay. Well, this is not where I normally shoot. This is about 7 hours north of me. And so a different perspective than I normally have. But so this would probably have been about KP 2 or 3 sized storm. And it was mildly active all night. And the when I have seen this green river down south at my latitude, just over 50, then sometimes I see this green river as well. But anyhow, this is kind of what happens just before it explodes, is this picture. Okay, the next fascinating one was on October 6th. Shortly after dusk, there was this huge SAR arc that was just to the south of us, and it was in the sky all night, well, all throughout my observations till at least 1 a.m., maybe later, and it did evolve over the evening. So this is facing west as just after the sun had set. So this is at 8:40. So then at 9:05, I took this panorama, and there was a second arc forming just to the north of it, and it was faint, and it seemed to be the same color, just a lot fainter. And then this is at 10:05. Now the pulsating aurora had moved further south, but you can see that that second arc had a bit of a different color. And very briefly, it looked a little bit wavy, like a Steve. Like a SAR arc just looks like an even band, but the Steve looks a little bit wavy. So very briefly, it looked, and I've really lightened up this picture to try and see the features in it. There was some diffuse clouds that were giving me a lot of grief. But anyway, there was this second band for a while, or second arc for a while, and there's to the east and to the west. The second arc was a different color, quite pronounced for a very short time. And at some point, those diffuse clouds, they look like continuum to me, but you can't tell if it's continuum or not without putting a spectrograph on it. But yeah, I say that they have to be clouds because I don't know the difference. But there was this strange cloud just below this second arc that had kind of a green tint to it. Maybe it was an extension of the green aurora. I don't know, but anyway,
Donna,
those clouds
Donna,
were giving me a fair bit of grief. Yes.
I could suggest that some of these images, it wouldn't be one thing we could maybe work together on or figure out how to do more easily would be to do like looking just at the red color in your images to make like a plot that shows just going straight up from the horizon there. If you go back an image, I think that would clearly show just in the red line, the intensity of the red line as you go up from the horizon would show the bumps of the different SAR arcs that you were capturing. Maybe, and then you wouldn't be bothered by the gray and you wouldn't be, might be more satisfying, not more satisfying, but something satisfying in as far as a little data processing on your image that could be added fairly easily, if that makes sense.
So like isolating the colors and
Yeah.
doing
Yep.
it that way? Is that what you're
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
Okay.
Isolating the
I don't know.
colors
I
and then
never thought of doing that.
pulling out a line plot that is the intensity of just one color, like the red.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'd like to talk more about
We
it.
can talk more about that. Other
All
folks. Yeah.
right. Okay. Oh, I see. I'm I'm gonna skip through some of these. So this is the night of spirals. We saw tons of spirals on October 11th. That was a big storm, an all-nighter of intense aurora. And I caught this satellite image that happened about this just after that first image I showed you. So I am just west of the satellite image, and this spiral has to be in my image, and it looks like maybe there's a vortex street here. I don't know. Or if that is surges, I'm not sure, but I see that um, the south edge of the Aurora is just north of Minneapolis here. And so that was the size of the storm at that time. This is at 2:02 a.m. And this is at 2:05. I'm looking at that spiral again over the lake. I was again at the lake, apparently my favorite place last year. And at 2:19, that spiral had developed a lot more structure in it. And it was a feast for the eyes that night with all of this structure and spirals in the sky. The next one was November 9th. I was out at the lake again with some friends, and we had seen it was probably a KP3 size storm, and I it was the exciting part was over. I was taking these pictures to the west, and I didn't see the dunes in my pictures, but when I we packed up about 15 minutes after this picture. And I went about 20 miles to the west and I saw it getting brighter and expanding a little bit more. So I stopped and started taking more pictures. And the dunes were really extended. And this is something interesting about the dunes. There's this little band in here, and you can see that the dunes are affecting that little band. They were really long, and you can also see some of the dunes to the east. You can never see dunes when you look directly north. You can like I can only see them when I'm looking to the west, sometimes when I'm looking to the east. But I find it really hard to find good settings and good processing to show the dunes.
But would the dunes be kind of similar to the eyelashes as seen from a different location?
Well, the dunes are no, because the dunes are, yeah, I know I don't know exactly the science behind the dunes, and I think they're still learning a lot more about it. But those eyelashes are actual aurora features, whereas the dunes are just an atmospheric feature. And when you see the dunes in a time lapse, it's as though the aurora is flowing over top of something physical. Does that make sense? Whereas those eyelashes were an actual piece of aurora. That's not making much sense, but
Okay.
I think also the dunes are more extended, sort of north-south, and more elongated in that direction, whereas the eyelash kind of thing um, also had a similarity in its spacing, but it was a little more sort of chunky in the pieces and they weren't extended along the same direction. I'm not sure if that description makes some sense to either of you, but there are some differences in like form factor or scale, but of course that's something that could be looked at more carefully.
okay, and then I went home and I went to sleep and I woke up just before 7 a.m. and I saw this aurora, looked out the window just before 7. I saw this streaming aurora. I couldn't even talk. I just grabbed my gear and I went a mile west of town and I took some pictures for about a half hour as the sun was rising. And I noticed a couple of weeks later that I had some fragments. Now, they aren't the bright green fragments that you see sometime when you see the fragment images, but I was so excited to find out that actually we can find fragments down here. It's not just a polar phenomenon. And they've been seen. There was a observation in Michigan, I think October 11th. And so you can see the fragments right throughout the oval. And anyhow, that was very excited to be able to find some fragments. Now we talked about the red. You had asked me to talk about the red. So we've discussed that before, and I see our time is getting short. So I'm just going to move to the next slide here. And you were wondering about an update about ISSI-ARCTICS. So we met for the third time in May, And this is the group of core members that met there, and we're sporting our Steve socks that Neil Zeller had brought for us, and we're showing our handbook. There was a little bit of funding that Katie had got to print a few of the handbooks. So we each got a copy at the meeting. That was pretty exciting. So that was our third meeting. We had 2 meetings last year. I didn't make it to the January meeting, but I made it to the June one. And we meet in Bern. It's ISSI Bern that is sponsored our working group. And this is the meeting room where we met from Monday to Friday for our meetings. And there were some attendees on Zoom. ISSI funds the core members to attend, and there's about over 20 external collaborators that are invited to attend online. And so some of the outcomes and accomplishments so far. So we're in the last year of our project. And so far as you know, we've published the free digital handbook and field guide to be used for citizen science. And that was because we are about trying to make the connections between scientists and citizen scientists. That was one of the first things we went to do. We've posted about 6 peer-reviewed articles on the ISSI-ARCTICS website. And when we left Bern, our last day, we left with an assignment of about 11 more papers that we're hope to complete before our project has concluded. And I think I've signed up to help with 4 of those. And a lot of the work is done by the scientists, but I do what I can to contribute. And one of the things we've learned about is how to collaborate with each other between scientists and citizen scientists. And that's such a learning process. There's still so much more to learn. And what I know now, I wish I had known at the beginning of the project, because it took me so many months to kind of understand what was expected of me, or how I should contribute, and how I should communicate. And I'm still learning about that, but I have learned a little bit in the process. And Maxime, he has created a lot of connections around the globe. He's done some traveling, and we are connected with some citizen scientists in the Southern Hemisphere as well. And with our, I say that we learned that crows love Swiss cheese, because a few of us North Americans wanted to bring some Swiss cheese home. And we thought, since we don't have fridges in our hotel rooms, we would set it on the balcony. And apparently the crows are really smart in Switzerland, and they know what cheese looks like. And they found our cheese and they had a feast. So we didn't get to bring it home. And Liz asked, how can you help? So one of the things that the papers that I'm working on is the fragments observations. And we, as our time is limited here, if you have any fragments observations, if you could contact us, myself or Vincent, within the next 2 weeks, so we could add them to this collection of observations. When they started, they had just been observed in the polar areas, and now we see that there are observations right throughout the oval, and there's still so much more to learn about fragments. There will be many more scientific studies done on this. So if you have any fragment observations, we'd love to hear about it. And if you have looked at the handbook or field guide, we're hoping to update that before our project concludes. So if you have any suggestions for updates or additions, I'd love to hear about that as well. And you can send it to me by email. And another thing is sharing the handbook and field guide. You can find that on the ISSI-ARCTICS website, and it's something that that we're hoping will help the collaboration between scientists and citizen scientists. And I'm going to be Captain Obvious here. How can you help is continue to report your auroras, because um, if we know the process, we can help others. Because I talk to a lot of people and they get frustrated, or they don't know how, or they find excuses not to. So if they see us reporting them, I think it then we can help them, and then they see that it's valid because we are reporting them. So that's just something that I have noticed from talking with others as well. And another thing to help the community is share Aurorasaurus posts, and I love to share this on social media wherever I can, and especially when there's a big storm. So those are some things you can do to help. And the SolarMaX mission is the last thing I want to talk about, which it flew from April 1st to 4th. It launched on Monday night, and it splashed down on Friday. And there was some successful observations in Europe on Wednesday night. And on Thursday night, we had some successful observations in Canada. But the SolarMaX mission team is still waiting for the footage. It hasn't been released to them. So they're still patiently waiting. But our Arctics team is planning to write a paper on it. So they're hoping that they get some of this footage soon, as you know, that this is it's the mission itself is just part of what Fram 2 did up in the sky. So we don't own the footage, and SolarMaX Mission doesn't own the footage, but this is part of us, that we will get this footage to be so we can study it. So there was 2 passes on Thursday night over top of Canada that I probably was in the view of. The first pass was at 21:43. They gave us these maps later that kind of showed us when it was passing over in the path. And I caught it just above the church we were at. I was about here, and then it passed over Canada, in the Alberta BC border, 22:16. This was right after substorm onset, and I may have been right in the eastern view of Fram 2, but this is what I caught. We had just had a substorm onset, and there was curls happening. So and then there was a SAR arc way south of us about 45 minutes later. So by the looks of it, by the next pass, they would have been way out in the Pacific Ocean. So hopefully they caught that SAR arc. And to end, I just have my time lapse of the passing of Fram 2 over top of the church. It was really exciting. I should have anyway, it was exciting to be a part of that, and very exciting that we could actually see Fram 2. It was visibly different than the satellites. And
Did you
that's
know
it.
that's what it was immediately?
Well, we knew where it was going to be coming over.
Yeah, and
We
when?
had an idea,
Thank you so much,
but
Donna.
it was visibly different. So you're welcome. I'm sorry I took up all the time.
No, you're fine. Everything is wonderful. This is such an inspiring collection of so much work. You're so modest. The handbook, I know you made that happen along with the others, but it's all really incredible. And I think we have another meeting coming up very shortly, but maybe we can hold, let people go if they need to, but have a couple questions for you, if you have a little bit more time as well. Laura, I'm thinking maybe 5 minutes.
Sure, and I have one quick announcement before everybody heads out, which is that we have, after a long process, um, finalized ambassador paperwork with our parent organization, the New Mexico Consortium. And so you will be hearing from me in the upcoming weeks, rolling that out. I will need everyone to sign on one more time, but this will be the last time that we have to do that. Um, so I really appreciate everyone's patience with that process, and I will be sending info out soonish.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, this is just incredible, Donna. There was one question in the chat earlier from Pat. Are you guys doing some of your write-up for the special issue of Frontier for the Heliophysics Big Year? Do you know if that's the paper in process or the intended
Uh,
place for that paper? Just curious.
for your yeah, for me, the papers, I know, I have no idea. Yeah, I
Well,
have no idea, but
Frontiers is doing a special issue of citizen science projects associated with the big year. And I think the due date for the papers is the 7th of July, but I think we're letting it expand a bit. But if you are interested in doing a paper for that compendium, I think that the deadline's technically over, but I'm one of the editors, so we can slip that in if you wanted to write up something about this. Elizabeth, you're doing one on Aurorasaurus, right?
Yes. Yeah, I can
well,
put that link in. You could also get in touch with the people that you're working with, Donna, and just ask if it's this, if you're curious. I mean, obviously you're curious, but we're curious too.
Yeah, you might as well get it
yes, for
out. Might as well get it out.
yeah, that sounds amazing. Yes, I will look into that. I will be in touch. Thank you so much, Pat.
Okay, well, I
I
gotta run. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Pat. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Anybody else want to jump in?
I just want to say great stuff, Donna. I share your passion and stay up just as late and enjoy. And it was a wonderful presentation. So I just want to say thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you, Bob.
yeah, extremely interesting. Thanks very much.
I'm happy to share, just like everyone likes to show their home slides. This is the same thing. And you
Uh,
hope not to bore the people.
Nope, we're very interested. We're very interested. Thank you so much, Donna. Yeah, I had a couple ideas, it would be cool since you've identified so many cool times. It might be cool to look at those specific times and see, were there observations from Minnesota or North Dakota, or, to get a couple of the other perspectives on some of those features at the same time. That would be a nice way to expand this presentation. Um, and then the only other tiny suggestion I have, which I will say just in case other people want to take it for if they do something similar too, is for me, putting like, if you can, like a little compass angle on the slide, on the side of the picture, like this, I'm looking west, or this is north or south, helps, helps a little bit more to orient because they could be any direction, but we're not as familiar with it as you are. But anyway, I know sometimes it might ruin the aesthetic of the photo, but
No, that
yeah,
totally makes sense. And I know when I look at someone else's pictures, I want to know which is north as well.
yeah,
And I look at my own and I know which way is north. But yes, absolutely, for sharing it, you need to you need to have the right perspective as which is north for
yeah.
sure. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. All right, we'll wrap it up here for today. Move on to all of our other meetings, but you have shared a lot of inspiring. We'll be thinking about this. So thank you so much for sharing.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a
Bye.
good month.
Thanks, everyone.